Beloved heart, I invite you to sign up to my mailing list, and as a result of signing up, you will get a free gift. It's a 5D rebalance tune up of all these chakras, and chakras are my specialty. So I would love to gift you with this transmission that is filled with light language and codes to help you stay balanced and tuned up during these increased frequencies of energy of this ascension, this new earth frequency. So check out the links in the notes of this show. And I look forward to connecting with you. I am sending you love.
This is the transfiguration of the new you.
Hello, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez. I'm your host for this podcast called The Ascended Earth, The Transfiguration of the New Human. Welcome back to another episode. This is a very special one. I had started actually preparing a completely different message for this episode. But this morning, I woke up with a really deep message from the God of my heart, or my higher self, as some may call it, however you want to express God within yourself. And what I heard was, let's talk about this week's about Martin Luther King's legacy, which, a lot of it ties into peace and nonviolence. So it is it is so appropriate to create an episode on this topic for this week, especially because in the United States, January 20 is Martin Luther King's Day. And it just so happens it is the day of inauguration in the United States, too. So as we're switching from one leader to another, there's an irony in this, in that on the day of Martin Luther King, who emphasized so much peace, there is more violence than ever. A law that is being released starting in the United States, which has, rippling effects in the world as well. So I'm not going to get into politics. I've never liked politics. Politics has caused, more division. And now in the United States just feels even more divided than ever before. So this message comes at a great time, and it may trigger some, which is good because trigger is an activation. And I am serving as a messenger through this episode, as a messenger of the God of my heart. So, and as I mentioned, this message also applies to the whole world. It appears that most of the world is going through changes in their government system as well. And this is a time of great change in the collective of many of the different systems that we find ourselves in, that especially a lot of which, are not working for us. So there is this transitional state that is occurring, a breakdown of different changes. So for a long time, I have been an admirer of Martin Luther King because of his message on nonviolence and peace. His commitment to nonviolence was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's teachings, who was well known in the time frame, like he was born 1869 and died in 1948. So I would say early 1900s that he was very popular in India, who also promoted a lot of peace and nonviolence and ways to make changes. So Martin Luther King adapted a lot of his teachings in American context. So we will explore core principles of nonviolence and how they informed his activism and how it applies to us now. I feel we are moving into this spiritual activism now, and it is a new level of spiritual approach. And in this level of spiritual activism comes the spiritual warriors, a lot of which ties to compassion, restoration, and love. So there is no need for aggression to, be a spiritual warrior. That is not what we're talking about here. So for those who don't know Martin Luther King, I will provide a brief historical overview. The history of his, story is of courage, conviction, and a relentless fight for justice. His journey spans from his birth of 1929 to his assassination in 1968, during which he became one of the most influential figures in American history and a global symbol of peace and equality. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and was raised in a very deeply religious household. He grew up in an environment shaped by rigid racial segregation of the South in the United States. And his father was an outspoken advocate of civil rights, which deeply influenced a lot of his beliefs as well. He graduated from the Morehouse College in 1948, which is a historically Black college in Atlanta, and where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. He attended Crozier's theology seminar in Pennsylvania, where he exposed to diverse theological and philosophical ideas, including the teachings of Gandhi on nonviolence resistance. And all of this took formation and shape in his life. So he also got his PhD in systematic theology from Boston University in 1955, where he was influenced by philosophers like Paul Tillich and Reinhold Niebuhr. So one of the events that sparked or triggered his rise in leadership was the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 to 1956. So he began, after they arrested Rosa Parks, who was a Black woman who refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, a segregation that would divide certain seats would be for the white race, and then the other seats would be for the Black race. So she refused to give that seat up, and she ended up getting arrested, which then sparked and triggered Martin Luther King to start a lot of these movements. So he was elected president of the newly formed Montgomery Improvement Association, which organized a boycott of the city's bus system. And the boycott lasted over a year and was successful, culminating in a Supreme Court decision declaring segregated buses unconstitutional. And the success of the boycott propelled Martin Luther King to national attention as a leader of the civil rights movement. So that was the start of a lot of the civil rights movement that created rippling effects of different changes in the United States laws, and such as, the Civil Rights of 1964, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and helped dismantle legal segregation in public facilities, employment, and education. And shortly after that, there were other laws that sprung out of that with the intention of justice. So it just kept getting, different formation and different rippling effects of impact that it had. So due to Martin Luther King's popularity, he also had many enemies. And we're talking about, 1950s and 60s when segregation was the actual law. And it was strongly emphasized, for segregation. So this led to Martin Luther King's assassination in 1968, which made him a martyr for justice. But over time, though, his influence spread beyond the United States as a global symbol of peace, justice, and nonviolent resistance. His ideas about justice, nonviolence, and the power of love have continued to influence movements around the world. His life's work remains an inspiration for those fighting for civil rights, equality, and peace in the 21st century, and it continues to grow. And I feel it will be more so this year. So Martin Luther King remains one of the most important figures in the world history. His philosophy of nonviolence, his tireless commitment to justice, and his ability to bring people together across lines of race, class, have made him an enduring symbol of hope and transformation. Pluto is the planet of transformation, and we are in it right now. Pluto is in Aquarius, which equals power to the people. This is a collective effort, and we are here to make a difference in the world in our own way. And it does not have to be in violence. And we are not here to be martyrs either. The idea of a martyr may have worked in past lives, as it was unfortunately for Martin Luther King and Gandhi. They served and fulfilled their soul contract for this to be a catalyst for greater change that we are also continuing in a whole new way than ever before. When we step into our authenticity, we also find our divine voice. And through our divine voice, our inner truth shines within those who are around us and the world. So I want to dedicate this moment to reflect on peace within and to hold a vision of equality and peace for others through your compassion. Make a difference with nonviolence. Violence can come up in different forms. It could be attacking someone verbally, mentally, emotionally, or physically. And in some cases, it could be all of the above. So usually when you have light workers, starseeds, and way showers, and those who are in the spotlight, who are emphasizing these points about compassions, our spiritual teachers are the ones who are normally attacked the most. The same way it was for Martin Luther King and for Gandhi. But the way things are now, things are changing in a whole different way because there's so many more of us than there ever was before. And so we're coming in much stronger in this way. So, for instance, though, I shortly after the elections here in the United States in November, I had posted something about compassion on my post and about kindness. And it triggered some people. And it triggered them in a violent way, to be speaking out. I would call it digital violence. So here's the thing. There is kindness also with the way things are expressed. And when somebody posts something, right, look at things from a different perspective, shift your mindset as well. There's no need for the violent attacks either on others. So that is, a lot of emphasis from this message and coming from a lot of these past people like Martin Luther King and Gandhi who had demonstrated this to us. So I'm sure there were so many others as well before them, who also demonstrated a lot of these talks and revolutionary ways of making changes. And I can go on with a whole list of them. But even though some of us may be separated due to past hurts or falling out, say with certain family members or even friends, I feel there is a sense of renewal and restoration and reconciliation that may come about this year as well. But this is different from toxic relationships, right? And some friends or family may have served their purpose, and so that cycle may have just completed, and there's no need to continue it in that relationship. There's nothing wrong with that either. So these are all different situations. But unity consciousness is always there in always, even if in the physical we may seem separated. And you have to feel in your heart when it is appropriate for you to continue a relationship. Don't confuse compassion for tolerance to stay with a toxic person or situation. You can still hold compassion for them, but it does not mean you have to stay with them in physical form. And in any case, that compassion has to come from you, especially if you're getting out of a toxic relationship. Hold compassion for yourself too. It is so important. It is so important that you find your time to recharge and renew through self-care. With this act, you call back your power into yourself. And I'm not speaking from a shadow egoic way. I'm speaking from the true power of your own divinity and your soul. For every breakdown, there is a breakthrough. That breakthrough is also a restoration and renewal for the better. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, or in other words, transformation. In every breakthrough, there is a transformation. And all I can do is my part to remain in the energy of compassion and love, making peace with myself, keeping a healthy boundary when necessary, even if that means standing up for myself and clearly speaking to respect my boundaries. And giving myself that nurturing self-care like never before. This is also opening doors of compassion and love for others. It all starts within. Your peace, your love, your compassion, it's all there within yourself to unravel, to expand. As babies, this was so natural for us to hold and have. But as we grew up in circumstances of life, experiences, challenges, pain, and suffering, we sometimes shut ourselves from our own self and the world. Make peace with yourself, and you will understand the philosophy of nonviolence. It's a philosophy to live by and act on. There is strength in numbers. So if you feel called to protest or a movement for better change, may it be in a nonviolent way like it was for Martin Luther King and Gandhi as they demonstrated. And another best way you can make an energetic shift in movement is through prayer, meditation, and visualization. And these are using the energy tools that you hold within yourself. And I would say that energy is so much greater and bigger than it is in the physical form. Of course, there is some action in physical form if that is what you're being called to, right? And nobody should be judged with what they're planning to do and how they're planning to demonstrate their movement and the shift. But this is coming in a much greater and a stronger way through the energy. So I encourage you also to continue to pray, meditate, and visualize the world in your own way to emphasize the energy codes of harmony, peace, love, kindness for one another, and compassion. There are so many episodes on my podcast and YouTube channel as meditations for the collective. And I encourage you to listen and re-listen to really plant these seeds in us and to all the generations to come through us. Do your part to make a difference and an impact of love. We are the next wave of legacy for this planet as light workers, star seeds, and way showers. This is our hero's journey. It is time to think outside the box and be creative in ways that we can support our communities. All communities have a rippling effect in the collective, especially when we set these intentions into the quantum field of our inner being. We are all interconnected, and it is time to shift our beliefs and patterns from separation to the interconnection of unity consciousness that we have in whole within our own being. And so it is. This message comes from the heart of God. So thank you for listening. And with compassion and love, I will catch you in the quantum field.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field, sending you so much love.